Hello friends, we're back in action today and I feel so super official because I'm recording on Alexander's PC streaming setup. It's so hard for me to look at you guys and not look at myself because my face, as you can see in my glasses, is just ginormous on the screen. Sorry. We're going to be doing a tier ranking list today, so I'm about to get really small, so you won't notice this. Welcome to my first in what is probably a two-part series of my end of the year videos, because as I mentioned in my most recent video, I did a birthday book haul, and I mentioned that even though I haven't been filming a lot, I have been reading a ton. I have read over 100 books this year. I'm almost at 110. So I thought that before I do my best and worst books of the year, I wanted to go over all of the other books that I read with you guys and just give you a quick yay or nay. And I just want you guys to know what I read moving forward and if I recommend it so that you know. So never fear, we are not going to be going over all 100 books today. I took off the top 5 and the bottom 5. So my best and worst are not on here because those are going to be featured in another video. So we won't be talking about those today. Also, I read almost every single book in the Immortals After Dark series by Cressley Cole this year. I had read the first 2 books last year, I think, in the series, or the first 3, I guess. And then in the springtime, I went on a rampage and I literally listened to all of them from 4 to 20 in a 2-month span. When I tell you, I listened to 130 hours of audiobook books. 130 hours in 1 month. Unhinged. But I also pulled those out because I actually have a separate tier rank of every book in the series. So if you're interested in me discussing that series and doing my tier ranking of them, I can do that. Yeah, we're not talking about those today. We're not talking about the best of the best. We're not talking about the bottom. But we are going to talk about everything in between, which is about 75. I think it actually is exactly 75 books. So I'm going to quit yapping and move myself over. Here's all my little book covers down here. I did accidentally put the Mistress Experience on here twice. So there's 76, but we just won't do that last one. I don't know how I did that on accident. But here are my tiers. We've got the Love It tier. So these are basically more or less the honorable mentions for the year. Everything that I super, super duper loved, but just didn't quite make the cut. But absolutely everything in this tier I obviously am a huge fan of. And then we also have a tier of books that I highly recommend. Maybe not my personal favorite thing in the whole world. Definitely something that I gave a 4-star. I would say this is 4-star and above, 4.5 and 5 stars that just didn't make my top. And then this is a solidly 4-star category. And then we have just good stuff, I liked it and I would probably recommend it to people, but dependent on their reading tastes or certain things that they like or don't like. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for just anybody, but on a situational basis perhaps. Then I have a category for things that are just forgettable, because I do feel I have quite a few of these on here that they're not necessarily bad, but I just don't think I am going to remember anything about them. And then we have stuff that isn't necessarily the worst thing that I've ever read, but a hard pass, a hard no. I'm not going to give full synopses for all of these because we'll be here for 100 years. I'll probably just give you a reason why I liked it and then a reason why I didn't like it. Start with the Mistress Experience, since I have 2 of them. This is the 3rd in a historical romance series by Scarlett Peckham, who's one of my favorite historical authors. I really, really like this. You know what? I think it's also my favorite in the series, so I'm gonna put it in love. She's a fantastic historical romance author. I read her other series last year, and one of them I think made it into my top. Really, really fun. It's about a lady of the night, a courtesan, if you will, and this guy who hires her to teach him how to please a lady because he wants to have a wife, and they fall in love. 10 out of 10, but that is the third book in the series. It did come out this year as well. That was a 2024 release. Then I read To You Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. I love Ali Hazelwood. You know what? Because it's so short, I'm gonna put it down here. But I know that everybody complains about how basically all of her books are the same thing, with the exception of Bride, obviously. And they are absolutely correct, but I just eat that shit up. I love when the male main character falls first and falls hard, and she is oblivious, and there's feelings and things happen, and this is no different. And it's about two people in video game development, which I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, I like that one. And then I read Infamous by Lex Croucher. This is one of their I would say new adult. It's like a historical romance, but it's not huge, super crazy on the romance. And I liked it a lot. It's not my favorite of Lex Croucher's works, but I did really like it. I would put it in good stuff, and I would put it behind. I'm gonna try and keep them in order in the tiers themselves. It's just a fun little historical time. The main character kind of bothered me a little bit, and it wasn't my favorite of their stuff, like I said, but it was still pretty good. Bringing Down the Duke. This one was forgettable. This is actually the very first book that I read in 2024. I read it for a book club. It's a historical romance, and I think I remember one scene, and it's like the first main scene in the book where the two main characters meet. It's forgettable. Literally, I don't even know what to tell you about it. Actually, you know, the one thing that actually did piss me off that I do remember about it is this is one of those tropes, one of those things where like the male main character won't commit for reasons of like their class difference or whatever, and then he has like a near-death experience and decides that, oh, okay, I do love you and nothing is gonna stand in our way. I hate that shit. I can't stand it. Happens way too often. Is that enough for me to put it in this bottom tier? It might be. You know what? Yeah. No, thank you. Midnight Ruin by Katie Robert. This is one of two of the Dark Olympus books that came out this year. I loved it. This is probably one of my favorites in the series. I think it's probably my third favorite. Certainly my favorite since Wicked Beauty. With this, it's Charon, Orpheus, and Eurydice. There's a lot of Persephone and Hades cameos. I love Charon so much. Eurydice was really fun. A little bit of puppy play action. It was just a really darn fun time, and I liked it a lot. So yeah. Did I like it more? I think I did like it more than the Mistress Experience. Hello, there we go. Okay. Then I read Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis. I would highly recommend this one. It's a short nonfiction that kind of connects a few different resistance movements, Ferguson, Palestine, and I think there was a couple other ones. I read this so long ago. But it's a really good one, just to like, as like a starter into recognizing the shared interests and connections among a lot of revolution resistance movements globally, and bringing America into that context and trying, like, not removing them from each other and trying to separate them, but pulling them together on purpose. Princess Ever After. This is literally 52 pages. It's a super cute little graphic novel that I read for a reading prompt for a reading challenge that I did. It's by Kay O'Neill. They do the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels, which I love and I'm obsessed with. It was just a really cute little silly time. Amazon's Abolitionists and Activists by Mickey Kendall. This is a graphic novel that spans a really large swath of time from like early ancient days to now, and the evolution of women's rights activism and things of that nature. I would highly recommend it. It is a really good graphic novel. It packs a lot of information in an accessible way. The art is really, really nice. I loved the colors and everything in it. I read a lot of graphic novels because I run a graphic novel book club. So you'll see a lot of them on here, and we are really big fans of graphic nonfiction in the book club, so there's also a lot of those on here. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna put it above the Angela Davis simply because I find the graphic novel format very, very accessible for nonfiction. Not necessarily because one is better than the other, but for that reason, I do think I would highly, highly recommend it. Spoiler alert! This one is super cute. Highly recommend. It's the first in a series. It's my first Olivia date. It was just a silly little romance, and it has like It's a romance between an actor on a TV show that's like Game of Thrones-esque, and then a girl like does cosplay and writes fan fiction. And it was just a really cute, silly little time. And I'm going to continue the series, so I would definitely highly recommend it if you're a romance reader. Okay, then I read The January Children. This is a collection of poetry. I read this for Blackathon, I think, early in the year in February, because I needed to read a book by a Sudanese author for one of the prompts. I struggle ranking and rating poetry just because poetry intimidates me. But I've been trying to read more of it for that reason and to, make myself a little more familiar with it. So I think it was really good. I would, keep it in this good category if you like poetry. That time I got drunk and saved a demon. I love this one. This was my first Kimberly Lemming. I had a lot of fun with it. I highly recommend it. I think I liked it a little less than spoiler alert, because there was a thing at the end that I wasn't a huge fan of with like how the male main character was treating our main character. Oh my god, her name is so special and adorable and unique, and I can't remember it right now. Lost Ark Dreaming by Sudi Davies Okungbawa. Absolutely, you know what, this one is gonna be at the top of love. I loved this one. This is a novella, and it's like future kind of like post-apocalyptic dystopian novel where Lagos has been flooded. The remaining surviving people in the area live in this tower, and there's people who live above and below sea level, and like how your class and your job and position relate to what floor you live on. And there's stuff with water and like these mermaid creatures. It's really, really, really good. Highly recommend. It's a short, fun sci-fi, fantasy, post-apocalyptic leaning hybrid story, and I really enjoyed it. I probably should have taken off my rereads now that I think about it, but this was a reread. Take a hint, Danny Brown. I reread it for a book club. Obviously, I love it. It was a reread. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars the first time and the second time. I love Talia Hibbert, and this one is my favorite in the series. You know what? I'm going to put my rereads at the end, because I did reread a couple that I gave 5 stars the second time. The Pull of the Stars was fun. Well, I wouldn't call it fun. It's actually quite sad. But it was a good one. I'm going to put this at the top of good stuff. If you like historical fiction, I think you'll really like this. It's about like the Spanish influenza pandemic. And it takes place in Ireland in a maternity ward over a short period of time. I think it's 3 days. And this nurse who's like, the hospital is incredibly understaffed, and she has to deliver all these babies and keep these mothers and these babies alive. But there's a pandemic raging outside. It's definitely, don't read it if you're sensitive to pandemic stories. If you like historical fiction and you're in for a good little cry, this one's pretty good and takes place in Ireland, which I love. What's All Black by Lee Mandello. This is my second Lee Mandello. I read one of their books last year and really enjoyed it. And this is another novella, another 2024 release. I would put it in the highly recommend category. It's very weird, gothic, sort of horror. And our main character, who is a trans doctor, goes to this small rural town, and there's some like religious culty kind of vibes, and then there's also some like weird stuff going on with a creature in the woods. The twist was really good. I liked it a lot. I would highly recommend it if you're into weird stuff. Nubia, Real One. This is another graphic novel that I read for book club this year, and I highly recommend this one as well. This is a really fun graphic novel. It's by L.L. McKinney, who I love. She writes the Nightmareverse series. The first book is The Blade So Black. It's a fun like dystopian Alice in Wonderland retelling series. But this is a series about our main character Nubia, who just discovers that she has some superpowers, and it definitely packs a punch emotionally, but I really enjoyed it. I loved the art style, and I love L.L. McKinney, and I really enjoyed the storytelling. She, I believe, has like Wonder Woman-esque powers and might be a Themyscirian. Then I read this super niche nonfiction book that came out this year called Byron. A Life in 10 Letters, and I really loved it, obviously, but this is certainly niche, as I said. But it's about Lord Byron, and every chapter begins with one of his letters that he wrote during his life, and then the author kind of just, spins a tale of his life based on that particular letter in that time period that he wrote it in. Again, I really liked it, but that's like a nerdy carryover from my college days. So I recommend it if you're into that, but otherwise you might be like bored or what the hell is this? Bingo Love. This one is also a super cute graphic novel that I really, really loved. I'm gonna put it at the end just because it was so short, but it's like a second chance romance where like these two women who fall in love with when they're teenagers at bingo, and they're like best friends, they get separated. I think it takes place in like the 50s or the 60s, and they find each other again at bingo in their like 60s or 70s, and it's so charming and darling and sweet. Then I read Destiny's Embrace by Beverly Jenkins. This is my first Beverly Jenkins, and I think it was good. I definitely want to read more from Beverly Jenkins. I had some issues with the male main character. I had a similar vibe to like Infamous, where like I liked one of the main characters but didn't like the other one. I think I would put it here. But yeah, I obviously want to read more Beverly Jenkins. She's another like huge name in historical romance. This is Wound from the Mouth of a Wound by, I think the author's name is Torrin Greathouse. And this is a poetry collection that I read this year that I really enjoyed. It's just, grappling with body experiences of a queer trans person. I don't remember a whole lot about it. Again, I'm just trying to like engage myself more with poetry. Okay, Funny Story by Emily Henry. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I didn't really love this one. I don't know if I would call it forgettable because the premise is interesting. I just didn't super love the execution of it. I mean, it's fine. If you love Emily Henry, you're gonna love it. I like Emily Henry. I'm not a ride or die. I haven't read all of her stuff. This is another graphic novel. This is The Chromatic Fantasy by H.A. Just the letters H and the letters A. And one of my coworkers recommended this. It is really, really good. It's the art style. I wouldn't say the story, but the art style has a very like trippy Alice in Wonderland-esque vibe. And I had a lot of fun with it. I definitely recommend it. Again, if you're a graphic novel reader, I have a lot of graphic novels for you that I highly recommend. But if you're not a graphic novel reader, maybe skip this one. Love in the Time of Serial Killers. This is just forgettable, man. I wanted this book to be so good and so interesting because, I mean, look at the cover, look at the title. It sounds really cool. I don't care. Don't remember much about it at all. The whole, like, thinking her neighbor's a serial killer part is over really fast and isn't very interesting. Doesn't really drive the plot that much. Then I read The Low Woods by Carmen Maria Machado. This one is so good. It takes place in Pennsylvania, which is cool. There's mushroom horror, which I am a big fan of. I love a good mushroom horror book. I'm gonna put this up a little bit. Oh, I meant to put these. Yeah, that's going at the end. I'm gonna put this up a little higher because I quite enjoyed that one. There's like stuff going on where like there's fires underground that's like residual environmental trauma from coal mining, I think. I don't know. It was really interesting, horror-esque, creepy graphic novel. Definitely a good one to read, in the fall around Halloween time if you're into that kind of vibe. The Mimicking of Known Successes. This one was also pretty fun. Where would I put it? Maybe right there. We'll split these two up. This is a science fiction mystery set on Jupiter. I loved the sci-fi mystery hybrid. I haven't read any of that like particular genre blend before. I would give it a try if you like mystery and you like sci-fi. I don't think it's particularly heavy-handed in either of the genres, so I think that someone coming from liking either or would really enjoy it. And it's a short one. I did the audio and I liked it. I am looking at this right now and feeling like this was on my worst books of the year, and that I have to check my list to confirm that I didn't accidentally put it on here. It almost made my worst books of the year. It's fine. It's not worse than this one. Well, it's not fine. It's not good. I mean, it's forgettable, but it's also ultimately like I wasn't having any fun with it. Lore Olympus is obviously, a top one here. I love Lore Olympus. This is my shit. I love mythology. I love Hades and Persephone and the art. It's so cute. It's so funny. It's so emotional. It gives me the butterflies. And this, honestly, this is my favorite volume, so I might put that up even higher than anything else that I've read. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, it's hard because a lot of the covers are very similar, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think this is my favorite of all of the volumes so far as well, so I'm going to put that one up really high. This is Exit Strategy by Martha Wells, the third book in the Murderbot Diaries. This is good stuff. I'll put it at the top of good stuff. I like the Murderbot Diaries. I haven't read one yet where I was super highly invested in it. I like it. I'm going to continue on with the series, and when I'm reading it, it's really fun, and I like Murderbot a lot, but it is kind of like teetering on forgettable. Like I remember certain things that happen. Maybe I'm just reading them too far apart. How much of these hills is gold? I don't want to call this forgettable because I think the main reason I didn't like it is I don't like historical literary fiction that much. It depends on the topic, and I have to be really invested. I'm going to put it in good stuff because I do think that I recommend it if you like a historical literary time. Like a book that doesn't really have a whole lot of plot but has a lot of vibes. If you're that kind of person, if you enjoy that kind of stuff, I do think that you'll like this. Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adaji-Brenya. I think I'm going to put it here because I do think I like Lost Ark Dreaming just a smidge more. Friday Black is a collection of short stories, which is, I think, I loved it though. Every short story was so good. They pack a punch. He is brilliant in every way. I absolutely love his writing style. This is his debut. I recommend it to everybody. His writing's fantastic. Oh, interesting. You can kind of see now that they're all together, that these are all from the same series. But The Rake S, this is the first one in this series. I think the series is called The Society of Sirens. Actually, I'm gonna put this one on highly recommend. I liked it a lot. It's my least favorite in the series, but this one though, the second one. Oh, did I like this one more? I know I told you that this one was my favorite, but I actually think that I lied. I think the Mistress Experience is a little bit lower. Okay, if you like historical romance, you have to get on the Scarlet Peckham train. You have to. I'm telling you, like, if you're a Tessa Dare fan, read these books. I definitely lied to you. I'm sorry. This one is a close second to The Portrait of a Duchess, which is the title of this one. Sorry, you can't really see. Who to F are you? This one's really cute. Another graphic novel. It's really cute. It's about a kid growing up in high school and the awkwardness of being in high school, but also going from being like the only Muslim kid in a class to moving to a community in Michigan where there's a lot of other Muslim kids, and how do I navigate my identity here, because I didn't necessarily love being the Muslim kid in class, but at least it had assigned me personhood, and now she kind of feels like she's losing her personhood a little bit, and how do I find that? And also just finding personhood as a teen in general, and how awkward and horrible teen experiences are. If you're looking for that kind of nostalgia, finding yourself in high school. Okay, The Death of Vivek Oji by Koike Emezi. I love Koike Emezi a lot. I loved Pet. I loved Bitter. I liked it. I didn't love it. I'm gonna put it somewhere in here. I would recommend it again if you like really sad books. I can recognize that Akweke's writing is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. The book itself is not bad. I just didn't really vibe with it at the end of the day. Okay, coming back down. Brides of High Hill. Oh, so good. This series is so good. This is the most recent installment in the Singing Hill cycle by Nevo. I think I'm going to stick it somewhere in here. Yeah, that feels right to me. This is a really, really fun series of novellas following a cleric who travels around this ancient pseudo fantastical version of China and collects oral histories and stories. Leather and Lark, I loved this one. I know a lot of people did not like this second installment, but I ate this up. In fact, I'm gonna put it here. Oh, nope, that's a lie. I'm gonna put it here. There we go. I ate this up. Bryn Weaver, another author that I think has found a formula, and perhaps not everybody likes that formula, but I'm down for it. A lot of people said that like there's just not a lot of plot in this book. I will admit I read the audio, and so maybe that changed my experience a little bit rather than physically reading it. And like it's definitely not as good as Butcher and Blackbird. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I liked it. I thought it was really good. I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. This one was fun. I do fear that it is forgettable though. It's one of those books that like while you're reading it, it's a silly little fun time. It's a fantasy story. It feels like you're sitting beside a fire and someone's spinning you a tale of an exterminator who exterminates dragons in this fantastical world. And like I said, the premise is good. It's cool. I fear it's forgettable. I think it's forgettable, but I will say I do think it's worth reading. I know that kind of feels like those things conflict with each other, but I think because it's enjoyable while you're reading it, it's just like, you know, in one ear and out the other, but while it's going through your ear holes, it's fun. Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This is definitely one of my least favorite Ali Hazelwoods. I know that I just said that her formula is, you know, my formula, and that is correct. I'm going to put it in good stuff because I do think this is one of the few Ali Hazelwoods that I would not recommend first. It's not that I wouldn't recommend someone read it if they like Ali Hazelwood, but if someone said to me that they wanted to start reading Ali Hazelwood, this is not the first one that I would give them. Where are we at now? Ugh, yeah, no thank you. This is a novella by Sierra Simone. And there's just a lot of like weird, like this girl is like studying to be a nun, and like there's a lot of religious stuff in here. Moving on. Okay, Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I enjoyed it while I was reading it for the most part. It has a really good premise, you know, witches in the modern day and, you know, secret stuff for the queen. I really disliked the ending. Like up until I read the end of this book, like I had planned on continuing with the series, but I really did not like the end, and it kind of just like killed it for me. So I would recommend it, maybe. Okay, this is all these Nikki Sloan books look exactly the same, but yes, okay, yes, I'm remembering which cover is which. This one was good. I do think it's pretty much on par with this Ali Hazelwood one, actually. So this is a series, I think it's called the Blindfold Club series, and it just follows like a lot of these people that like know each other, and you know, a super steamy time, as you might gather from the covers. Not my favorite in the series, but definitely not my least favorite. Earth Divers Volume 1 by Stephen Graham Jones. Loved this one. This is another graphic novel. It's kind of like it's two timelines, so it's super far in the future, post-apocalypse, and then like this group of people goes back and tries to stop Columbus from invading and colonizing America. And it's just an interesting premise, interesting series. Like the time travel, it is a series. Time travel elements, the art was gorgeous. I was a little confused on some of the elements of the whole like time travel mechanics of it, but at the end of the day it was really good. So I would put it in highly recommend even. Yeah, I think somewhere around here. Nettle and Bone. Is this the first T. Kingfisher on this list? As you will gather from looking at the rest of this, I went on a T. Kingfisher binge this year. In the middle of the year, I want to say over the summer in like August or something, I read my very first of her stuff. And I loved it. And I have read almost her entire backlist this year as well. I am actually on, I think, her last one, or at least all of her adult stuff. She's also a YA and I think a children's author too. So I've only read mostly adult books by her. This is not the first one, but I read Nettle and Bone, and I really enjoyed this one. Yeah, I'm going to put this at the top of highly recommend. It's not my personal favorite, but I really loved it. That's just because Do I want to put it in the love category? I think I do. Okay, I'm putting it up here. I am gonna put it towards the end of the love category because, like I said, it's not my favorite. We'll come back to that, but really, really good gothic, dark fantasy, or not gothic, excuse me, dark fantasy, horror-esque story. This is definitely forgettable. I already don't know what this book is about. This is Dreaming of You, by the way. Sorry, you can't see it. Dreaming of You by Lisa Kleypas. Forgettable. This is Earth Divers Volume 2, and I actually enjoyed this a little bit more than the first one. Just because I really, really liked the Ice Age setting. Okay, Three Little Mistakes. This is the absolute best one in the series. This one is so good. I'm still going to put it lower because I have some serious problems with Nikki Sloan as an author, which we will get to again, like I said, in the future. But I mean, this book was so good. Oh my god, can we have a moment for this cover? I don't know if you can really, I can't make it bigger. This is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This is her sophomore novel, and it's gorgeous. Oh my god, this is like, I think, one of the best covers of all the books that I read this year. This one was really, really good. I loved it. It's a romance between two musicians, which I typically find that boring because I know nothing about music. And that did bore me a smidgen in this one. But that being said, I did really enjoy it. I think my enjoyment of it is very much on par with Leather and Lark, where there were like a couple things, a couple critiques, but for the most part, I just loved it. I ate it up. Ate that shit up. The Atlas 6, oh my god, fantastic. I acknowledge that I'm way late on this hype train, but this was so good. This one might be my new top one. The character work is so good. I listened to it as an audio and it's a full cast narration. It's a dark academia, fantasy, adjacent magic, but in a good way. Like, it's so well done. Olivia Blake, loved it. Absolutely loved it. 10 out of 10. This one is forgettable. I don't know. This is the most boring in this series by Nikki Sloan. This one is also very forgettable. The Great British Bump Off. It's a mystery graphic novel. I mean, basically the entire point of this is just has a lot of funny spoof jokes about the Great British Baking Show. Other than that, it really doesn't have anything else to offer. IMO, so not super big fan of that one. Dark Restraint. This is the other one in the, you can kind of see them next to each other here. In the Dark Olympus series that came out this year. This is, I believe, the 7th installment in the Dark Olympus series. And I also really liked this one. I don't like it more than Midnight Ruin. This is an Ariadne and the Minotaur retelling. They are not siblings in this retelling. I want to be very clear. The Minotaur is like adopted or like pseudo-adopted by Ariadne's father in this series and like becomes like his thug hitman. So they're not related, to be clear. I think that placement feels good to me. We can revisit the internal placement of some of these at the very end. Okay, now we're back on with another of my T. Kingfishers. This is A Sorceress Comes to Call. This one also came out this year. I loved this one. I think I like this one more than Nettle and Bone. I think I would put it somewhere in this area at the top here. Like I said, I liked it more than Nettle and Bone. This is a Goose Girl retelling, and I really liked all of the characters in this book. It was dark, and the fairy tale elements were really, really well done, and I just really, really liked it, which is weird because like I had no knowledge of the Goose Girl going into this book, so you definitely don't need it to enjoy it. Okay, this is Stamped from the Beginning, the graphic novelization version. And I really, really liked this one. I would put this in the love category for sure. Probably somewhere around here. My thing with this is I really, really want to read Stamped from the Beginning. I own it and I still do plan on reading it by Ibram X. Kendi. But it's so thick and intimidating, especially as someone who doesn't read a lot of nonfiction. I'm trying to read more and like set certain goals for myself every year to read a certain amount of nonfiction. But I have found that graphic nonfiction is very, very accessible for me and helps me to understand and conceptualize and learn a lot better when it comes to nonfiction. So I read this for a book club, but I also find that it's a really, really great way to get my feet wet before reading the full-length nonfiction book of Stamped from the Beginning. It's still very dense, to be fair. It's a graphic novel, but it's still very dense. It's long and there's a lot of text. But if you are kind of in the same boat as me where you really want to read Stamped, but you're a little intimidated or just like kind of dragging your feet with it, I would recommend starting with this. This is Disillusioned. This is another nonfiction book about 5 communities in America and like racism inherently built within the suburb structure. I'm gonna put it down here because there's a few moments where I was like, I wanted the author to go a little bit further because it is, full transparency, written by a white man. But he lives in one of the communities in the book, and he, I think, does a really good job of like interviewing people and translating their opinions into this book. So I had a couple things that I would like to push more a little bit on, but I highly recommend it if you're interested in that history and if that sounds cool to you. This is an arc that I read this year that came out this year in December, The Nightmare Before Christmas. I wanted this book to be in this category so bad, but it's just not. I don't think it's in the lowest category, and I don't think it's forgettable, but I also don't think it's good. Like, if I had a category between these two, I would put it in that category. I have since read the second book in the series, which is also on here, and it redeemed this whole series and this author for me a lot. So I'm going to put it in good stuff because here's the thing. It's a fun, silly little romance between the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of Halloween. But as someone whose favorite movie is The Nightmare Before Christmas, this had almost no Nightmare Before Christmas essence to it other than the title. And there's way too much Christmas and inter-holiday politics in this book that was just unnecessary. This should have just been a silly, fun little romance, and it was like way too much about the internal politics and political struggles among holidays, and it just felt like it was taking itself a wee bit too seriously. Diary of Blood, this is another reread, so I'm gonna stick it here at the top because obviously I loved it. Obviously I gave it a 5 out of 5 again. I reread it because I made a book club that I'm in read it. Okay, A Guest in This House. This was so good. This is a graphic novel by E.M. Carroll. This one was so freaking good. It's definitely gonna be in the love category. I loved the twist. This one was one of those where I read it and then I had to go back and reread like the last 15 pages again, and it just like I was sitting with it for so long. It was chef's kiss. Brilliant. Absolutely loved it. I'm gonna definitely put it real high up here because this almost made my top 5 books of the year. I think I'm gonna put this second. This was exceptional. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was so good. Oh, this is another arc that I read. This actually comes out in 2025. I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com. This is the first book in a new series by Kimberly Lemming, and this one is so good, guys. Like, if you have access to the arcs, request it and read it because it's so good. I got this from NetGalley, and if you don't, pre-order it right now because I'm telling you, brilliant, exceptional, loved it, 10 out of 10. I loved our main character so much. She's so funny and quirky, and just like everything that comes out of her mouth is just like, yes, I root for her. And just like the way that she just like takes all of these crazy things that keep happening to her in stride. This one is forgettable. This is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. This one, I mean, it's fine. It's a silly little, I think witch romances are boring to me. I think like contemporary witchy romances I just don't really do well with. This is, I forget what it's called. Something When I Arrived at the Castle. This is also by E.M. Carroll. This is a really short, slim graphic novel about, I don't even think it's a vampire, some sort of creature. Maybe it's a vampire. I would put this in good stuff. I didn't love this. This is nowhere near on the level of A Guest in the House and Through the Woods, but I still enjoyed it. It was fun. I'm gonna put it somewhere in here because I feel like it's in a similar vein to these ones up here. Okay, The City in Glass by Nevo. This one is also exceptional. This is a new standalone by Nevo. So unique, brilliant. The ending I had to reread a couple times to quite fully understand. This one is definitely up here. I think I'm going to put this in the third slot for now. It's a love story between an angel and a demon. And the demon, like, is a patron of this city that she has built. And the angels at the beginning of the book come to destroy it. And this angel, like, is falling in love with her, but, like, she hates it. It's so unique. Like, I know it sounds like, oh, just a little fantasy romance, but, like, it's not a romance. It's a love story. Nevo is just the master at writing weird, unique, compelling stories. Okay, Lore Olympus Volume 7. Obviously, I loved it. Not quite as much as Volume 6. I think I liked it a little more than the Lolo Woods, and maybe a little more than this one. So we'll switch those two out. This is Her Halloween Treat by Tiffany something. I can't read the last name because these aren't my real glasses. And the picture is super pixely. My friend at work told me to read this, and I'm sorry, but I don't like it. I mean, it was fine. I don't know. Like, it's just like a smutty little Halloween story. I don't know. I just, like, forgettable. I'm sorry. It's forgettable. That's the bottom line. M is for Monster. This is a graphic novel retelling of Frankenstein. I actually think it's one of the more unique Frankenstein adaptations I read. I would recommend it. I'm gonna put it at the end of my recommendations here, but I think, yeah, if you like Frankenstein, I think you'll like it. What Feasts at Night? Okay, this is the second book in the Sworn Soldier series by T. Kingfisher. This is the sequel to What Moves the Dead. And I liked it. I did not like it as much as What Moves the Dead. You know what? I'll put it at highly recommend, but I'm going to put it at the end. Because I do recommend it, and I do recommend this series as a whole. I just think that this, like, if this is going to be a long series, I think ultimately this is just going to be like one of my lesser favorites in the series, if not my least favorite. This is another graphic novel, believe it or not. Wake, The Hidden History of Women-Led Slave Revolts by Rebecca Hall. And this one was really well told. This is a nonfiction, and it's basically like this person is telling her story as a researcher, going to try and track down all of these archival materials and this data and the challenges that she encounters as a researcher. But then it also jumps into the past about these women on slave ships and how people tried to bury the history of the leadership of these women leading these revolts. I really liked it. I thought it was good. I would definitely recommend it here. I think that feels good. Okay, this is When a Scot Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare. I love Tessa Dare, and this was a really, really fun little story. It's like about this girl who invents a Scottish soldier that she is betrothed to so that she doesn't have to, like, go out into society, and she, like, makes up all these correspondences, and then it turns out that he is real and he gets all of her letters, and then he comes back from war and is like, hello, you are gonna be my wife. And it's just a fun, silly little time, and I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put it somewhere up here, like, by spoiler alert, because I feel like my enjoyment of these is very much on par with one another. Okay, this is the sequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas, so you can, like, see the covers next to each other. And this one was really good. I might go so far as to put it in the love category. I did give it a 4-star, I think, but I certainly liked it more than Dark Restraint, I think. So this is the sequel, and this follows the main character in the first book's brother, so he's, like, also from the Christmas family, and the crown prince of you guessed it, St. Patrick's Day. It takes place in Ireland the week leading up to St. Patrick's Day, and it is so good. It's so much better than the second one, or than the first one, and like I said, I feel like it really redeemed the series and the author for me. It's great. It's so funny, and like the way that the author handles like the emotional journey of each of the main characters, I feel like is a lot better in this one, and it's not bogged down in like the politics of, you know, Christmas Land versus Little Irish Land. I recommend this one, and this one is a 2025 release as well. I think it comes out in March. Okay, we're in the home stretch here. We've got a couple left. Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher. This is their newest YA story, and it is a Sapphic Robin Hood inspired story. I hesitate to call this a romance. I think that it's definitely like historical romance adjacent, but it's more like found family Robin Hood antics, which I also really love. Where am I gonna put this one? I'm gonna put it there. I feel like that's a pretty solid placement. This is the author of Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, which made my top 5 last year. So good. So it's not on par with Gwen and Art in my opinion, but it's close, and it's still really enjoyable, really fun. YA antics, romance, found family, historical, Robin Hood, Sapphic. Loved it. Okay, this is actually the only manga I think that I read this year. This is Nights with a Cat Volume 1, and it's just about this guy and his sister moves in with him, and she has a cat, and just like the little antics that they get up to when he gets home from work, and it was darling. I recommend it. It's just a silly little time. Eileen by Tessa Moshfegh. I get what this book is doing. I had some issues with it, but I get what the author's trying to do, and I get that what she's doing is revolutionary in the sense of writing an unlikable female main character. I hesitate to recommend this to anybody unless they like really weird ass shit. Like, you know, sometimes when you hear about a book or you read a book and you're like, this went over my head and I feel a little stupid to admit it. This is one of those for me. Okay, this is our last graphic novel, The Four Gathered on Christmas Eve. This is a short story graphic novel collection of 4 stories by 4 popular graphic novel artists, and they each wrote like a low ghost horror story in the tradition of Victorian ghost storytelling around Christmas time. It was okay. Only one of the stories I really liked, and the other 3 I thought were just okay. Like, I think, yeah, probably around there. I mean, well, actually, I think I enjoyed Funny Story a little bit more than that one, to be fair. Okay, then this is like the only Christmas book I really read this year. I mean, with the exception of Nightmare Before Christmas, but that one I read in October, interestingly enough. Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake. I liked this one. My main concern and my main pet peeve with this is I thought it was a little long. I'm gonna put it in good stuff, and I'm gonna put it at the top of good stuff because I do think it's a really good story. And the thing I think I like the most about this is that it's not just a Christmas romance for the sake of writing a Christmas romance. It's definitely its own fleshed out romance between 2 people that just happens to take place during Christmas time. Okay, Keep Me by Sarah Kate. This is my first Sarah Kate, and this is about a Scottish billionaire, a rugged, traumatized Scottish billionaire, and this little brat girl from America, and she like shows up at his house. It's a marriage of convenience. It delivered in all of the ways that I was hoping that it would. I think I'm gonna put this in love. I really enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna put it among the Leather and Lark and Not Another Love Song ilk, I think. Okay, last one, because again, we already did this one, is Thorn Hedge by T. Kingfisher. I literally just read this. This is the most recent book that I read, and I really liked it. This is definitely competing for my favorite T. Kingfisher spot. on my list of T. Kingfishers that I read. This is kind of like a Sleeping Beauty adjacent story, but it's really, really well done the way she approaches the retelling of this and adds so much new content to it. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Can't decide if I like it more than A Sorceress Comes to Call, though. I think I'm gonna put it in here somewhere. Okay, yeah, this is my final tier ranking here of all the books that I read this year. Again, not including my best, not including my worst, and not including all of the Immortals After Dark books that I read, because there's just too damn many. But yeah, basically, like I said, honorable mentions. These are the books that, you know, if you want to know what I've been up to, what I've been reading, what I've been forcing down people's throats, these are the books. All right, we're back at the full screen me now. It was a good reading year. I don't know that I'm ever going to hit 100 books in a year again. It was sort of a fluke, mostly related to the reading of 20 plus IAD books in 2 months. We'll see what happens, though. You never know. I'm not going to count myself out just yet. Oh, also, a moment for the nails. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, they're little presents. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you read some of the books in my top tiers. I'm very sorry if some of your favorites are in the bottom tiers, but, you know, they can't all be winners for us all, or every book would be a 5-star on Goodreads. Please let me know in the comments what your best and worst books of the year are. This is my favorite kind of content to watch. Thank you so much for watching this video and coming to my channel today. It means the world to me. I love you all. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if that's your jam. And I will see you in the next video, hopefully very soon. Peace out.